Hello, I'm Lisa Flood.
And I'm Jason Angelette, and welcome to Faith in Marriage Today.
And we would like to welcome to our show Dr. Dennis Wells and Dr. Angela Parise. You're both physicians in our Archdiocese, and you have really an incredible story to tell. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having us.
You know, Jason and I talk all the time about, through different guests we've met, that it's really easy as a Catholic to think, I have to compartmentalize my faith. Like, I go to Mass on Sunday and I love God, but then I have to go to work. But you two have found a way to manage to live your faith as physicians. Dr. Wells, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your faith journey.
Yeah, I was blessed to be baptized Catholic and have an experience of coming back to the church during my medical school training. So I was actually in medical school. So there was a long time I was away from the church and things. And during med school, came back to the church through the influence of some great guys, and actually some of the stuff we'll talk about later. The Catholic Medical Association was influential in that. I went to one of their annual conferences, which was just absolutely beautiful and inspiring and things, and so it's kind of been a part of my life on the way. I became a congenital heart surgeon, so do heart surgery in babies born with heart disease and then adults that grow up with that. And it's a challenging road, and getting through all of that with my wife and the children, and them, keeping me and staying sane and things like that all required. I think, God brought us back to the church at the kind of perfect time, to kind of get through all of that and refocus and learn kind of where priorities should lie and where to lean when times are hard and things like that. And so my faith is absolutely critical to every aspect of my life and getting through work and doing it for the right reasons and with the right goals in mind. Yeah.
And Dr. Parise, tell us a little bit about your faith journey, because that's pretty incredible. And I love that somebody invited you to nudge you along.
Yeah, right.
That's hopeful. Okay, what about you?
So I often say the Lord doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the call.
We say that too.
So as an OBGYN, it probably was a personal event for me to be so connected to my faith and to the Lord. It didn't feel right to be vocal about it, and especially in a field like my own, in OBGYN. Often it feels like I'm different from a lot of the partners that I have. My faith was so strong that I think I started to hear the Lord call more and more during my practice, to the point I couldn't stop hearing Him. I had a major conversion. I went from a very long practice, over 15 years of prescribing birth control, having a practice that wasn't in line with my faith. So I felt my personal life was in line with the faith, but not my professional. Sure. And it was very hard to, like you said, to meet where these things came in line. I felt like somehow I was letting down my profession by being the faithful Catholic that I am. Mm. And it was a day in my practice I'll never forget. I happened to be on call, and it's pretty typical when we have a group of doctors rounding on patients and taking care of a woman who was in need of a surgery the next day. She had what's called a procreta, which is where the placenta is growing into the uterus, out of the uterus, and into the bladder. And this patient was almost 23 weeks pregnant, and this pregnancy wasn't quite viable based on medical standards of when the neonatal ICU team would revive the baby. So being with that family and watching the incredible medical team that was in line for her for the next day, we knew we needed to act quickly and deliver the patient's uterus or do a hysterectomy. But in doing the hysterectomy to save her life would also mean the end of another life. And it was a profound experience in that room, watching the family in pain and struggling, because they knew what they needed to do, save mom's life, would also be they would be losing their child. So I just happened to be the doctor on call who was there, and I just knew that family needed me to be there, and that was more for prayer. Yeah. And so when that incredible medical team left, I stayed back to pray with that family, just to let them know, I know they were doing everything they could, but we needed to go ahead and proceed with surgery, because if we waited any longer, she could potentially bleed and hemorrhage and her life would be at risk. So the family said it meant a lot to them that I was there on that personal medical level, knowing that as a professional, I understood that toggle of faith and good medicine. So that next day when I was in clinic, one of the residents happened to call me and say, look, I know you were very connected to this family, you were praying for them, we're going to the operating room just in case you wanted to know. Yeah. And that day, the Holy Spirit was knocking, yelling a little bit loudly, and something stopped me to leave my office that day and go into the operating room in the middle of the surgery. And as I walk into that room, what I see over and over in my career of delivering a uterus or doing a hysterectomy, all I could hear was that baby inside that uterus. And that baby needed the dignity of prayers and baptism at the time of surgery, because I knew that baby would lose its life at delivery. So in that room, I approached the specimen table where the uterus was being delivered with the baby in it. And I knew I needed to cut into that uterus to hold that baby at the last moments of that baby's life. Something inside of me just knew this baby needed prayers and needed human interaction before passing on to the next life. So I cut into that uterus and I delivered that baby thinking that that baby would be probably passed away, which it normally would during a surgery like that. And the baby was moving. The baby was moving its arms, his legs. And all I could do was scream in the room is, this baby is alive. This baby is alive. And during those prayers, I wrapped that baby up in a blue towel and ran down a hallway in a hospital, 4 floors up, to go meet the neonatal ICU team so that they knew there was a live baby coming up and that we needed to do something to try to save this baby's life. Because I know that family is matter as little of a life that baby would have, those parents needed hope. Yeah. And the value of life, how small those moments would be on this earth, was valuable. And something changed inside of me that day, that I need to stand for life. Even in the hospital, through all the ordinary, through all the surgeries, that God needed me to be the hands and feet. And I've never looked back since.
Oh, praise God. I mean, what a gift and what a witness and what a reminder that we're not meant to compartmentalize our faith, that our faith is meant to empower in life, to guide and to help us to make those decisions that are going to be sometimes tough, but to bring hope and love and truth in all of our situations. That it's not just business, it is personal. It's a personal encounter that we have with our Lord, that He wants us to have encounter with other people and bring that witness and faith to others. How is I want so much more to say.
Keep going.
Keep going, but so again, there's so many things we can talk about, but I want to come back to that point about like the importance of your faith. Dr. Dennis, how has that shaped and guided you and given you strength to kind of realize that there is a particular way to do this and we need to respect all people in that faith as part of that decision?
Yeah, I think for me, I don't do anything as noble as what she does.
No, yes, he does.
And a lot of it for me has been focused on the kind of day-to-day, and early on in my faith journey, it was me being a better husband, a better father, and then it was translating into, the only reason I ever wanted to be a physician was, to serve patients and to do good for others and things like that. But, as you develop in your Catholic faith, that even means more than just kind of the, general idea of it. And so for me, going through med school, going through training, going through and getting into my career and things like that, all that was pretty, it was a long process, some hard times and things like that, having my faith at home led to growth in our marriage, growth with my children, and things like that. Having that grow in me led me to think, remind myself on a day-to-day basis that when I was having a bad day, I wasn't having as bad of a day as my patient was, and that I was there to serve them, and it just kind of kept me grounded and gave me focus and gave me clarity over how no matter what, and we deal with some hard things and some patients who don't do well and things like that, and it allows me to kind of be grounded and know that I'm just here to do the best I can for the patients that are in front of me that day, and do that so that hopefully they're God gets glory out of it, and that they're drawn a little bit closer to God in their life.
Yeah.
Would you say that, Dr. Wells, that you're not forcing your faith on the patients, but if they want that prayer, that encouragement, that bringing the Lord into it, you're there to do that if they're open?
Yeah, I think if anything, maybe sometimes I could do a better job of being a little bit more of maybe directly asking family if they want me to pray for them or things like that. But I'd say exactly, I don't force anything on them. I just live it out, I think, and I'm no exemplary Catholic or anything like that, but I do think, it's turned into this where, everybody I work with knows that I'm Catholic, and then it comes up in conversation, and they see the way I interact with patients, they see the way I interact with families, and I tell families, if they have a patient that's doing, family member that's doing poorly or has something hard to come up, I tell them I'm praying for them and things like that, so.
I think about Dr. Angela Parise, you said that, that your faith was going to interfere with your ability to practice medicine well. Is that something that you feel like a lot of med students and doctors think, that they need to kind of suppress that faith to be a better doctor? And again, obviously that's not the truth. What can you speak into that?
Sadly, yes. I do a lot, and I know Dennis does as well, mentorship for medical students and residents, and especially in my field is very specific. I feel like God is so funny, where sometimes we try to plan and he laughs, because he put me in the middle of a field where the Catholic faith is just hard to stand for your values, because so much of what my field of medicine is against what the church teaches you. It teaches us when it comes to family, when it comes to birth control, when it comes to sex, when it comes to all of those things. So I feel our residents are in. And for instance, I've worked with a lot of medical students that worry about what they put on their resume. They worry about what they're going to put in what their awards have been, and if somehow it ties back to the pro-life movement, or if it ties back to what they do in the church, a program might not want them. A strong program in our country may turn away from them being part of their program, because they're going to say they're not a good fit simply based on faith. So that reality is, the truth is, they are taught to hide it, because it could affect your career.
So you have a lot more to say on that topic. We're going to go to a quick break. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jason Angelette, and I'm the director of the Faith and Marriage Apostolate for the Willwoods community, and I'm excited to invite you and your spouse to our 16th annual diocesan-wide Supper and Substance on Friday, July 25th from 5:30 to 8:30 right here at Mid-City Lanes Rock and Bowl. This ultimate summer date night includes dinner, drinks, dancing, bowling, live music from our award-winning New Orleans favorite after party, and a powerful presentation from our amazing speaker couple, Troy and Christy Bourgeois. To purchase your tickets or for sponsorship opportunities, where you can reserve a private lane for your group for the whole night, go online to faithandmarriage.org or call me at 504-830-3716. We hope to see y'all right here on Friday, July 25th from 5:30 to 8:30 for a fantastic faith-filled date night of food, frames, fellowship, and a whole lot of fun.
Welcome back. We're continuing our conversation with Dr. Dennis Wells and Dr. Angela Parise. We have so much that we want to discuss with both of you. And before the break, we were talking about how hard it is at times to live your faith as a physician. During the break, you shared a little bit, and we want to bring that out here, that sometimes you two get the privilege of working together on some really tough cases. Will you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, one point I was making is that why I think she's so noble is because OBGYN is one of those areas where particularly the Catholic faith and modern medicine are in deep conflict in a lot of areas, contraception, abortion, many things. And while we don't get to necessarily work absolutely directly together and things like that, I mean, some examples that we've talked about are the fact that, patients with certain genetic conditions and things like that, or families, when they go see an OBGYN, the vast majority of them encourage them and even tell them the right thing to do, or what they have to do sometimes is that to have an abortion and things like that. And OBGYNs and Catholic OBGYNs have to stand up to that type of culture. And I think that's far harder than anything that I have to do. But, whenever, she does that, some of those patients frequently have heart disease. And that's one of the reasons that, things like their cognitive ability and some of the other health problems they have are reasons why they tell parents that they need to terminate these pregnancies and abort these babies, like trisomy 21. And it's probably the most common one that we deal with. And they frequently have heart conditions. But that's something that we can actually do a great job of managing most of the time with surgery. So
you must have some miracle stories that you can share with us, some glory stories about how God has moved.
You go ahead. I'm sure you've got some good ones.
Oh my goodness, glory story. Well, God is always moving within the practice, I feel like. Oh, wow. So there's so many stories. I was like, where do I begin? But I guess God is always working. A story that really stands out of a particular mom who was going to give her baby up for adoption. And I just happened to be her doctor. And for some reason, I was feeling the Lord nudging on me that I needed to take care of her. But see, I got in the way a little bit. And I thought I was supposed to adopt the baby. And so in that process of working with her, thinking I was going to adopt this child that she needed to give up, in that story, I remember when she called me in the hospital and needed specifically me to see her. And at this point, I was not going to be able to adopt that baby, but I knew I needed to be there. Again, I felt called in prayer. I felt that God was nudging me to go see her and reach out to her because she chose not to have the abortion and wanted to give this baby to another family. So in my process of driving to the hospital to visit her and pray with her, a friend happened to call in that process of driving to the hospital. And this friend mentioned that her best friend had just lost out on a baby the day before. Everything was set up. The birth mom chose to keep the baby. So all the things were lined up, the background checks, all the paperwork was done, but the baby stayed with the birth mom. And going in thinking I was going in to pray for this patient, it turned out within 25 minutes, a baby was adopted.
Wow.
To this other family. That the hospital administrators, the social workers, they said, Dr. Parise, we've never seen an adoption this fast ever in the history of our hospital. And I said, it wasn't me. I was just God's hands and feet in all of this. And I was just meant to be the one taking care of her because God knew I would be the connector of these wonderful people. And that, again, life, all good, is done in God's mind. No matter what heartache that mom had, or what heartache this other mom had, they were meant to join together. And God just used me to be their physician at that time.
What an incredible story, and what a gift. You're just so passionate when you speak about what it means to be physicians, but to first and foremost be the man and woman of faith that you are. You've both been moved to help get involved in the Catholic Medical Association, and that involves connecting your colleagues and also mentoring students. Dr. Wells, tell us how you really jumped into the Catholic Medical Association, or maybe you got pushed in.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been a part of it. I think it's a great organization. At the national level, it's very committed to being faithful to the church and then being a resource for physicians and things like that. So, like I said, a huge percentage of the membership is OBGYNs and family medicine doctors, because they're the ones that deal with so much conflict in their specialty. And they provide a huge amount of resources. And as they've grown, they've really gotten involved in advocacy to a big degree and have been influential in that. And that's really important now, especially when, unfortunately, even things like people's licenses and board certifications are being threatened if they're not doing the things that their professional societies say are right, but the Catholic faith says are wrong. And so I've been inspired by them, and I've been a part of it for a number of years, and used to work with the residents and trainees, and then been involved in starting a couple of chapters in the cities I've been in before. And when I came down here, I was wondering if there was one, and thought it'd be great to get one started, and started to meet people. And funny stories. The way I met Angela was she was delivering the first of our baby. My wife and I have 12 children, and our 11th was the first one born in New Orleans, and she was on call and ran at the last second to deliver that baby. And she lives her faith out, because we hadn't met before, and I knew within about 5 minutes that she was Catholic. And I think she left the room after we hugged, and we said we were going to get to know each other. And so we talked about it and ended up networking. She's very involved with the pro-life movement, which was inspiring. I went to a meeting where they had just filled a banquet hall with people who were planning some events with that. And so we networked with some people about getting one started. The first time around, we a couple of years ago, we said maybe some people don't have the bandwidth to kind of get it going, but recently we've gotten a core group of people that are putting some efforts together for us to get a chapter started here. And
what would you tell any doctors listening that maybe they're Catholic, or they're maybe maybe haven't been practicing their faith like they should, or maybe they haven't, but to be a part of this, to encourage them to step into that group? Because I love the idea of just not trying to do this alone, and banding with your brothers and sisters in Christ to be able to strengthen numbers, that our faith does have something very valuable to say in the medical community, and it has something to contribute into the world. It's not just like an add-on, it's the center of everything. Tell us.
Yeah, because the group doesn't necessarily provide any specific things, but what it does is almost noble selfishness, is that you get support, right? Yeah. And so that's what it is physicians supporting physicians supporting other people's in healthcare in your community, and then also specifically mentoring students and trainees and things like that, and being able to provide some leadership and mentorship through the hard things they're having to go through and decisions they're having to make and things like that. And so what I'd say to people is that's what it's there for, is though that that you've got people that are there for you and that can support you, and that they know the struggles that you're dealing with, and that they're faithful, and they know that where we're going to find our rest and where we're going to find our proper motivation and our proper strength and our proper energies are all in our faith, and that we can do that together. So
on a local level, you've even gotten the Archbishop involved, haven't you, with a beautiful white coat mass? Tell us about that, Dr. Parise.
Yeah, that was a beautiful event. See, a lot of the work started with the medical students, and we taught our medical students are what truly inspired me, probably around 2020 time. I kept hearing the Lord saying, we need you to be the light in the darkness. And it was COVID time. There was so much stress and anxiety, students struggling, fellow staff physicians struggling. And I started to have some gatherings when students would come to the house, and we would talk together again about how hard it is to being a practicing Catholic in your field of medicine. So in doing that, I started to realize they also had their own little group of Catholic medical students gathering, and the Archbishop would actually have a dinner for them. And so they invited me in to the dinner, which was very inspiring, because now I felt like, wow, these medical students, these residents, they're inspiring me. So I felt very called that we need to be on this journey together and we need to work together. And so the Archbishop was so wonderful at welcoming us in. And I'll never forget him telling me, he said, Angela, if you ever need anything, let me know. And I said, what we really need is to get this group started. Yeah. So we worked with the Archbishop. We met with the Archbishop and said, we really want to have our local New Orleans Guild, our Catholic Medical Association's New Orleans Guild, so that we could just be more centralized for the physicians. Because when you start talking to more and more people, like you said, you realize they're doing it, but doing it in a silo.
Yeah.
And so they would have the white mass at the cathedral, which is an incredible event where everybody wears their white coat. And between the medical students, the residents, the staff physicians across all fields, to see everybody gather together for mass. Wow. So again, that beautiful synergy of our faith and of our professional role coming together, and then being there together, it was beautiful. And our most recent time when we did it in front of the cathedral, the Archbishop met with us all after. Right. We had that beautiful picture we took as a group. And that's not even probably a quarter of us. Those were the make that mass. So I feel like organizing this, we're going to be able to really push this off.
That is incredible. And we are so excited. We're so grateful to you. I happen to know some of those med students that you're talking about who are really so grateful for your fellowship and the leadership and the encouragement. So thank you for what you're doing. If somebody wants to learn more about the Catholic Medical Association, where should they go? Is there a website?
Yeah, the national organization has a website. It's called cathmed.org. It's just cathmed.org. And they've got a great website that kind of summarizes what they do. So. Okay.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for being with us. If you would like to learn more about the Catholic Medical Association, go to cathmed.org.
And that's our show for today. If you'd like to watch any of our previous episodes, you can check us out on our Faith and Marriage YouTube channel. And while you're there, please be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you can be notified as soon as a new episode is released. Lastly, if you have a question or a comment, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for watching. Until next time, God bless.